Hello and welcome to ISG's LinkedIn Live. Today, we're going to explore space to innovate and how this could be the missing link to unlocking prosperity in the UK's economy. Our latest research report reveals a link between space and innovation that can lead to increased productivity, growth and essentially prosperity. I'm Richard Hubbard. I'm part of the board here at ISG. Today I'm joined by Charlotte Meeks, who's a design manager at ISG.
Hi, Richard.
Hi. James Wolfrey, who is a director in our retail business.
Hi, Richard.
And Geeta Lineker, who's a supply chain manager.
Hi.
Hi. So before we get into the conversation, let's just set a bit of context for what today is all about. We all know that growth has been slow post-pandemic, and for the immediate future at least, it's going to continue that way. But innovation could be absolutely central to how we maximise productivity and performance. Our report has actually uncovered that having space to innovate effectively could unlock an extra £44 billion to UK's GDP, and we could get a productivity uplift of nearly a third. So innovation's absolutely key to unlocking value. Yet organisations, some 64% of them, have either postponed or cancelled innovation programmes in the past 5 years. So there's something we need to do to unlock innovation to get to that productivity. And politicians are very alert to this now. We're starting to see phrases bandied around like start leading the future by creating it. And we all know that people, skills, innovation, they're all critical in terms of the future formula for prosperity. But there is a gap, and that's something that the report reveals, and here is the gap. So the good news is 90% of organisations are actively investing in innovation, but only around 20% are actually investing in the physical space needed to innovate. So while 7% on average of turnover is being spent on innovation, 2/3 of organisations have told us that they don't have the right space to innovate in. So really it's going to lead to my first question, and that's really around, do you think investment in physical space that's needed to support and facilitate innovation is lagging significantly, which it seems to be from the report? James, if I come to you first, I know that you work obviously in the retail sector, and you've got some really long-standing framework relationships in that sector. Do you think innovation is being cited as key, and is that connection with the physical space being made?
Yeah, it's a good question, Richard. And as you referenced earlier, our most recent report identifies that most organisations recognise they lack the space to promote creative thinking. And I think that's largely down to the ongoing market conditions that we talked about earlier on. That's not getting any easier anytime soon. Most organisations are investing in their people and technology, and rightly so. There's lots of evidence out there to support the reasons why they do that. And it does help give organisations that edge that we all crave. But what is a lot harder to find out there in the public domain is that evidence that makes the connection between innovation and investing in space and getting the key outputs from that. That's a lot harder to lay your hands on. So I'm really hopeful that the Space to Innovate report that ISG have commissioned will help shine a light on that and create some informed debate. But I would just add that some of our customers we work with, and you referenced to financial institutions, I believe that they are a bit more advanced in their thinking than others. But there is still some way to go with this.
Yeah, interesting. Obviously vital to us, Geeta, is the supply chain that we work with. And I just wondered what you're seeing in terms of fostering innovation through the supply chain.
Yeah, I think just to build on James's point as well, access to knowledge flows and networks was identified as the second determining factor to allow businesses to deliver innovation activities. And what we are starting to see is that businesses are taking advantage of clustering and innovation and research that's happening in the broader networks, which is great for us to see. And when I think about this in relation to the supply chain, the best way I think we can invest in innovation really is to drive innovation that drives value up and inefficiency out. Really is by engaging early with these organisations to understand what their goals and ambitions are when it comes to space. That way we can discuss that with our supply chain at an earlier stage and we can all be engaged early. as a business, I think we're in a really privileged position where we can facilitate events, workshops, and specific focus groups with our supply chain to share that knowledge. And I think there is a real need in the industry for transparency and to support that collaboration, that greater collaboration, and to move away from those collaborative behaviours that ultimately drive cost up but don't necessarily drive up the value. So I think that adopting these behaviours and changing the way in which we do things can only increase productivity and just ensure that we're doing it in a more collaborative way.
Yeah, definitely in the supply chain, but right across our industry, that's a factor. Charlotte, you're working with some of the most sophisticated businesses in the world in terms of innovation. Obviously, in your role, you're delivering design concepts on a daily basis. How can you draw from your experiences to kind of influence those discussions around space and innovation and collaboration?
So I think partnership and collaboration is something that is essential, but it's often overlooked. I think drawing on our experience through COVID, it really demonstrated that the lack of in-person collaboration really posed some challenges around our project delivery. And actually for us, despite COVID always having these negative connotations, I think for ISG, actually it was a catalyst for real positive change around how we approach the design of our project offices with a newfound focus on creating optimal environments that support our people and actually are beneficial to our clients as well, particularly in the realm of collaboration. I think ultimately for innovation to happen, we need early engagement, we need broad collaboration with our stakeholders, and actually we really need the space to facilitate that, space in our offices, space on our sites that allow us to foster that culture and those values to drive efficiency forward. And actually when we've done that, what we've seen is that innovation and creativity really comes ultimately from when we can bring our teams physically together.
Yeah, absolutely. And that whole bringing people together and working collaboratively is something that we're hearing from clients all the time. So certainly when we work outside of the competitive tendering market and more towards the framework markets, what we see is that our clients want to work with 3 or 4 main contractors like ISG, and they want those contractors to actually work together to come up with solutions, share learning, innovate together, and come up with a solution. Then everyone gets a fair share of the work is the outcome. And that's certainly somewhere where we are seeing more innovation. But it is a cultural thing, as you said, and it's something that I'm curious to know, how do we change this once and for all and really get it more collaborative? So Charlotte, if I can ask you, it's really when and where does innovation and collaboration need to begin?
I think ultimately it needs to happen at tender stage or before if possible, but actually I think we have to be realistic in that the tender process doesn't typically afford us the level of collaboration with prospective clients that we would truly want to unlock innovation and innovation that's actually directly responsive to their requirements. But despite that, we have still been able to enact so much positive change around our project deliveries and our project offices with, gone are the days where we have project offices shoehorned into windowless basements, serenaded by construction noise, we've got a newfound focus on the importance of well-being and encouraging digital innovation and supporting our local communities. And we've been able to see that through on some of our project deliveries with looking at installation of BIM caves so that our teams and our client teams can explore their projects through a digital lens. And equally on the operations side, looking at how we can provide our catering offer for our welfare using local providers that in turn will use local welfare. So actually what we're doing there is we're giving back to the communities that we're operating in. And I think the key message really here is that we work, as you said, with some of the most successful organisations in their sectors, and no two businesses are the same. Yeah. So actually, in order for us to unlock the right formula, we have to understand what their performance requirements are. And actually, until we've done that, we're not able to tailor a truly bespoke response that's aligned to their aspirations.
Interesting. If we create space to innovate in our project offices on site, then surely we can create space to innovate in our actual projects. Yeah. Okay, so James, with this in mind, you're having conversations with those financial institutions all the time. What are the conversations you're currently having around estate planning, and how could this support innovation?
Yeah, I believe there's still a lot of uncertainty out there, Richard, in truth, post-pandemic. I know it seems a long time ago now, but there's still many organisations wrestling with what they need from their workplaces. There's a myriad of things there that are being considered between hybrid working policies, returning back to the office full time to get people together to create that innovative thinking, whilst also making sure that we are providing the best facilities that are going to retain and attract new talent. So many moving parts to it, and underpinning all of it, of course, is keeping the cost base as low as possible, particularly in the current climate. As we touched on earlier, some of our customers are more advanced in their thinking than others, and we reference the financial services sector, but also some of the food retailers as well. I think they're seeing more opportunities coming forward to bring their people together, and they have many lenses that measure success, and they will have more focus on what good looks like for them, probably more than others. So there's a strategy there that ultimately leads to their future expansion plans. And defining what the actual right location for those guys to be in, I think there's many moving parts to that as well. Obviously, geography plays a key part, size and scale, and trying to get the balance right between getting people to return to the office and still get that work-life balance right. That is really, really topical out there at the moment. And what we haven't talked about is the ESG drive as well. That's huge, and again, hugely topical at the moment. So our trusted long-term customers that we talk to all the time, they're constantly being challenged to evolve their service offering. They need their colleagues to evolve how they operate and how they undertake their roles, and also they expect us to evolve. We've worked for a long time as a traditional tier one main contractor, but many are now expecting us to operate in a slightly more advanced role, in a more advisory capacity. But that takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. It takes a long-standing relationship. It takes a bit of trust, and also a deep understanding of the cultural ambitions of that organisation as well.
Yeah, so interesting that you talked about post-COVID. Organisations are still wrestling with how to configure their physical space, how much they need. Exactly that. And we did a previous piece of research called The Power of Place, which indicated that one of the reasons people will come into the workplace is to collaborate and is to innovate. So there has to be something in this. I think one of the things that I found really startling in the report was that having the right space to innovate could create 700,000 jobs in the UK alone. So I guess for you, Geeta, what work are we doing with the supply chain to drive that change that's needed?
I think we know that there's a skill shortage in the UK anyway, let alone within construction. And looking at these figures by organisations investing in their spaces, I really think that this will encourage our supply chain. And speaking to some of our supply chain about the report, they found it really eye-opening to see what opportunities are out there in terms of job creation and some of the other figures that were pulled out. And I think it will encourage the supply chain to continue their investment within training and development, as they'll be able to see kind of more of a future benefit of them doing so. So I know that a lot of our partners are doing so much already, but I think that there's that need to invest further to fill some of these jobs. Responding specifically to the question about how we're bringing the supply chain on this journey to deliver these spaces, I think again the key is really to be engaging with our supply chain earlier on in that process. So the earlier that we're involved, the earlier that they can be involved, and it allows them more time to creating more innovative solutions for everybody, whether or not that's reducing embodied carbon, reducing operational energy costs, or even bringing to us the most innovative products that are on the market or solutions that are on the market for our earliest consideration. And early involvement in design is key. We've talked about it for a very long time. It's so important, and there are huge benefits of doing this that we've seen previously. And it allows us to us and our supply chain to not only deliver better short-term but long-term value to our customers. And at ISG, we focus on working with our strategic partners, who are our key supply chain partners that we've worked with for a really long time. And it allows us to work more collaboratively together with them. And they're willing to invest more time and energy into innovation and supporting the idea of innovative solutions.
That's great. And it's so much about early engagement in this sector, isn't it? And that's where we get the best results for everyone. So, okay, so to summarize, the report definitely shows there's a huge link between appropriate space and effective innovation. And we know this at ISG because we've actually built entire buildings dedicated to innovation for the likes of Dyson. We all know the great innovative products that they produce. Also for the University of Sheffield at their Citran building, where they are looking at potential treatments for motor neurone disease. So really important work. What we all know is we can't just keep doing the same thing again and again. And in our sector, I think that is a challenge, but we need to innovate to come up with better and different thinking. Really, I hope this report will stimulate a good conversation and more conversations about space to innovate. Do get a copy of the report. You can get it from our LinkedIn page. And if you have any more questions or you want to carry on the conversation, please use the comments box to do that. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.